So we are 1 month out from the trade deadline now, so I love this time of year. Got trade deadline booked off from work because I'm glued to the TV that day. So I want to talk about the latest from Frank Saravalli with Daily Faceoff. He lists Tyler Benson, Mikko Koskinen, Kyler Yamamoto, and Dmitry Samorukov as the potential Oilers that could be on the move. Mike, what do you think of those four names that could be leaving the Oilers?
I think you could probably add a couple more names to that too. Looking forward to like the offseason and for next year to help create room and such. But I think they're the perfect four names. I think that, you're kind of pigeonholed in the fact that Mike Smith has got the no trade clause, and, he's a 40-year-old goaltender, and really he was, Tippett's dream boy. And unfortunately this season he just can't stay not injured. All the points go towards Mikko Koskinen moving and going somewhere. Mikko's played well, except for, again, last night, both goaltenders really struggled, but the guys in front of him struggled as well. So, it was kind of, and I liked what Woodcroft said, it was a team loss. They all basically played like garbage, right? Like, they just didn't have it last night. I liked how you commented when you texted me last night that they just seemed to just not have it last night. And it's unfortunate because they finally, like, one of the bona fide, Eastern teams that really is doing well this year. But that Kaapo Kähkönen, man, like, wow. That's the kind of goaltending I wish that we would get in it. From our backup goaltender. We had a hell of a game there with Stuart Skinner, because with Stuart Skinner playing the way he is and then going down and again playing the last 2 or 3 games in Bakersfield and playing really well, I think that moving forward, Skinner is part of what, the team needs to have for next year. So what's that going to look like? The thing is that if you go out and you try to get a bona fide goaltender, what does that mean for Mike Smith, who still is unfortunately one more year under contract? It kind of puts us in a precarious position in the offseason, unless Ken Holland has some kind of magical wand that he can wave with Mike Smith for next year. As far as like Tyson Berry, I think is what was on that list. I think right now there's probably a lot of teams, like, he is a good puck-moving defenseman and maybe a different look somewhere, but what's his value going to bring? Like, he really hasn't shown his best foot, and this year he's really had some struggle. He has done better under Woodcroft, being put into different situations and not being overused, but I think that hopefully with his pedigree from last year and how well he played last year also bodes for trade value this year. I think Yamamoto is another guy that you talked about, and I think with what he's been able to accomplish under Tippett and Woodcroft so far this year, if you are not looking at keeping him full on and doing a 2 or 3 year extension at the end of this year, which I can't see, he's just too little. I know the fan base loves him and everything else. I just don't like the fact that he's just too small. And you're playing on the line with Connor McDavid. You got to start burying some of these chances. It's just it's underwhelming as far as that goes. And then the last guy that you were talking about was
we had Samorukov on the list.
Yeah, Samorukov, and then the deadweight Tyler Benson. I am not a Benson fan at all. I don't think that he brings to the team. I think he's a mid-bottom 6 guy, but our mid-bottom 6 are just better than he is.
Did get his first NHL goal last night, though.
Good for him. He got his first NHL goal, and I think somebody had said, unfortunately, meaningful to him, but not meaningful for helping out in the game. I just think that, if there's people available, if he could go somewhere, because we have to look at the fact that you're not going to get rid of all your garbage and then all of a sudden get this prize. No. And you have to give away some stuff to be able to get something back. I'd also throw Cooper Marody in that mix. I think that, he's just a guy that will be a 100% AHLer. He'll never be a full-time Oiler. I don't care what any other fans think of Cooper Marody. I personally don't like him either. And he fits too many of the bottom 6 category that we already have that are better than him. So moving forward, if he wants to get more playing time, I think Arizona Coyotes or one of these teams that are in the rebuild, of Buffalo or New York Islanders, I think he would be a great mid or bottom 6 for them, moving out east and getting a lot more playing time that he just unfortunately won't get here. But yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. I also have a question for you, is that, we're kind of alluding to it, but, does a person look and go, okay, well, Jesse Puljujarvi, it's kind of the bison king in the room right now. He's awesome. I like his tenaciousness and what he brings, but, if he's healthy and back on it and he can be available at the trade deadline, would you use him to bring somebody back in the back end or to be able to go and see maybe we can get that bona fide, top goaltender?
Possibly. I know Jason Gregor reported a couple weeks ago that they have started contract negotiations with Jesse Puljujarvi, so it doesn't look like they're going that way. I think they're more looking towards moving, like the name that Saravelli mentioned, Kyler Yamamoto. He just doesn't, well, you can almost say the same with Jesse Puljujarvi lately. He just doesn't produce enough for where he plays. Mm-hmm. You want to see more production, like he's played with Connor and Draisaitl most of his Oilers career, and he just doesn't have the numbers to support playing with those guys.
Even though his numbers are the best of his career so far.
Yeah, but I don't, like, I like Yamamoto. Don't get me wrong, I like Yamamoto. He's a tenacious little bastard. And I love how there's just no stopping him, basically the little honey badger, if you want to call him that.
I know, but I'm emphasizing on the words you're saying. Little. The guy's just small. If we're trying to be harder to play against, we're trying to get bigger, we're trying to get tougher. Unfortunately, he can go and lay out the big hit, but if he's still the guy that's laying on his ass after that, like, that's what's wrong for me in that picture, right? Yeah. Plus the fact, like you said, he's been playing with Connor and Draisaitl basically all season, and what does he have, like 9 goals? Yeah, right? It's just his output's just not enough, and it's streaky. At some point, again, it's you're gonna have to get rid of some good guys that you think have value to be able to get value back.
Well, and if the Oilers want to bring back Evander Kane, and I think at this point, you definitely got to be looking at it. I don't know if I give him like a 6-year contract or something like that with his off-ice issues. Maybe I'll probably keep it to try to a 2 or 3 year contract. But if things keep going well, like Evander Kane's made a huge impact, like you mentioned earlier, with him and Marcus Niemelainen. We've been saying for years the Oilers are too easy to play against. He's helped change that narrative. But if the Oilers want to have any hope of re-signing him, guys like Jesse Puljujarvi or Kyler Yamamoto, they'll be taking some of that Kane money that you need. So I think if they're going to try and keep Kane in some way, then either Yamamoto or Puljujarvi will have to go.
So if you're Kane, you're 30 years old, you've been in the league a long time, right? What kind of money are you looking at? I tell you, like, he's exceeding my expectations in the fact that he came in basically halfway through the season, cold, hadn't played really any hockey, and he's already potted 5 goals, right? He can play with Draisaitl. That mix with him and Draisaitl is fantastic. If they could just get maybe a little bit bigger of a guy, like, I love the fact that the chemistry, and you don't want to ruin it with Fogle and Derek Ryan and Nugent Hopkins. Like that line, like, I'm sorry, like I think that third line could be a second line on most other teams. But I like the fact that that Woodcroft doesn't talk about it as a 1, 2, 3 line. He's still doing mainly about 11 and 7 when it comes to the forwards and stuff, and distributing the ice time very well. And having it so that even these younger players are playing with the likes of a Draisaitl, a Nuge, a Kane, a Hyman that we're not even really talking too much about. It's like I like that in the fact that he's really being able to bring out more of the potential. But like Derek Ryan said, how much am I supposed to be effective when I'm only playing 5 minutes a night and it's 15 minutes in between my shifts? Exactly. It didn't make any sense. He was wanting to talk about a team, and I'm referring to Tippett, but he wasn't playing them as a team. We looked for 30 games, and it was like, oh, look, there's Connor and Draisaitl and Nurse and Hyman all playing like 25, 26 minutes a night. And dogging them in the first two periods, and in the third, when you really need them to have some kind of spark, like they're just skating around like they're just dead weight. It's just an unfortunate reality that the change in mindset that Woodcroft brought to the lineup and to how he dispersed that. I think he's getting the best out of all players and making all the guys feel like they're part of the team. It's not just the Connor and Draisaitl show. It's everybody's, like, you look at the production from that line of Nugent Hopkins, Fogle, and Derek Ryan, like it's incredible. It's great. But I would love to have a Fogle type guy on that other side with Draisaitl and Kane. If you could have like 3 towering guys on that line, I think it would be great. Like, they're missing the fact of not having Puljujarvi. Him going down that 2 games ago, that really kind of put a loose link in the armor as far as that top 6 went, because then they're missing that presence in front of the net, right? Hyman can do it, Evander does it, but nobody does it like the Bison King. Like, he loves being there. He's always got that unbelievable smile on his face and his big boot out there, right? I love what he has to and what he brings to the team, but I'm sorry if it's between Jesse and Evander Kane. If you can sign Evander to that 3-4 year, that sweet spot deal, and unfortunately if you have to lose Jesse Puljujarvi, I'd do it. I would do it.
Well, I'd prefer to lose Yamamoto, and if they can find a way to keep Puljujarvi and Kane.
Oh, if you can keep both, yeah. If there's a way that with how our salary cap is looking, unfortunately, if you could find a way, if Holland can be creative enough, and I think this is going to kind of play into our next segment, is if he could be creative enough in making it work where you could have Puljujarvi and Evander, man, in a perfect world, I'd love that to be as part of how our top 6 rolls out.
Yeah. Well, if you can lose a player like Zach Kassian, get his $3.2 million off the books, get Tyson Berry's $4.5 million off the books, that's the money there that you can use to bring those guys back. As far as what Evander Kane would be looking at, if the Oilers are going to keep him, it's probably going to have to be something in the $4 to $5 million range. If he wants more than that, the Oilers aren't going to be able to fit that in the cap. He's going to be gone.
But I tell you, success breeds a huge amount of wiggle room when it comes to these superstars, especially these guys that are in that 30-plus age range. Look at Joey Thornton, right? He's just been going and kind of being a filler around the league right now. He's quite older than Evander Kane is, and has kind of lost a step, but he's still getting a couple $1 million for every team that he plays. But with Evander, I think if you could get him 3-4 years around that 5, maybe even top it out at $6 million, I think there's a way to make that work. But like you hit it on the head. I'm sorry right now. We're looking at 11 forwards, and like, we've never gone in any of our talks in the last 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Man, I wish Zach Kassian was back. Wow, I wish Zach was on the ice, because Zach hasn't done shit for me this year, right?
No, and it's too bad. Kassian used to be really effective.
I know.
And basically, when he signed that new contract, it all went downhill. Just not worth what he's getting paid now, $3.2 million.
And I just don't know how he factors in to the lineup, because right now, I'm sorry, like, I think that the guys that they're running right now, even with having to use like the likes of Tyler Benson, like, look at McLeod. McLeod getting a little bit extra playing time, and we haven't even talked about him yet. And it's been great
McLeod's
to see.
Been really good.
It's been great to see the Toothless Wonder getting some assists and playing with some top end talent, but getting like 14, 15 minutes a night. Like, it's awesome. But again, Woodcroft had seen these guys for the last 4 years. He's been massaged through the ranks. He came here with McClellan back when McClellan took over the coaching, brought him in on his staff, and then when that fizzled out and he had to make a choice, he took the job down in Bakersfield, knowing that, hey, if I take my lumps down here, if I figure it out, if I do a good job, and he's done an awesome job with these youthful guys down in Bakersfield, and now is able to take that knowledge of what their capabilities are, because Tippett really didn't seem to give the youth a chance. He was a very
veteran guy.
Veteran guy. And you could see that with Ken Holland going out and getting Duncan Keith in the offseason. I love the fact that we got Duncan Keith. I think it was a great move. I just hated the money from get-go because how long, and we saw that he got injured again, right? You look at what Holland's done the last 2 years and how Tippett was coaching, and it was very amalgamated to that as far as, we need to wrap some veterans around that. And I totally get it because a veteran presence is really what a lot of these kids really needed. But I think it could have been done a little bit differently, but, 6 to 1, half a dozen the other. We can't take away what has already been done. And I like that what Woodcroft said. He goes, we can't change what's happened in the past. We can't change losing 7-3 to the Minnesota Wild yesterday. What we can change, though, is keeping our focus and having that practice tomorrow and coming out and playing a hell of a game against Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Just to close out this segment, Ryan Rishaug did a little piece on TSN this morning. Not anything groundbreaking. Basically, if the Oilers do...
Well, it is Rishaug.
It is Rishaug. But basically, if the Oilers do anything at the trade deadline, as we all know, it's got to be money in, money out deals. So basically, Evander Kane used up the last of the Oilers' available cap space. So at the trade deadline, you got to look at money in, money out type deals. Like we talked about earlier, the Oilers-Islanders deal, possibly Koskinen, Berry for Clutterbuck, Mayfield, and Varlamov. I also wanted to mention Dmitry Samorukov, who was one of the names Frank Saravelli mentioned. I could see Samorukov being used as a trade chip at the deadline instead of a draft pick, because we know the Oilers don't have a lot of draft picks to use at the deadline here, so Samorukov could be used as a sweetener.